Hey, Try, how's it going?
Hey, Palsteron, it's going pretty well. Just had a new daughter, but everybody's sleeping in the house right now, and I feel a little bit energized with all this PoE2 talk going on. So happy to be here.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. Congratulations again to that.
Thank you.
My most important question, straight up, how old does a baby have to be to start doing Kia's recipe for its dad?
I'm not 100% sure. I've tried to get my daughter into the game. She sat on my lap during the queues for league launches, but she's gone only as far as clicking me toward the first zombie and then almost dying on the first zombie. So she probably has to be a little bit older than 2. I started playing D2 when I was 4. So given PoE's complexity, maybe a little older.
You're planting the seeds.
Yeah, yes, very, very early.
It's going to happen.
I want them to play. Maybe 4 was too young for me, but I turned out reasonably okay. So
I think they should start at like 3 or 4 or something, right?
3 or 4,
that's
right.
like definitely something in the patch notes for the future, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I know that people are like, oh, it's so gory and everything. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I turned out right. I played Baldur's Gate, Diablo 1, Diablo 2 with my dad. I'm totally fine. They're going to be exposed to it. And as long as I explain, it's just a video game, I think they'll be okay. Just no like Ludnaris Temple level 2 or anything like that. Basically, anywhere else in the game, I think is fine.
Perfect. So for everybody who doesn't know what TalkativeTri, he makes, I would call it like news-ish videos, news flavor of the month about Path of Exile 2, right? You started out a little bit with PoE 1, but nowadays I think you're firmly shooting for Path of Exile 2. And we just had the announcement for the early access on apparently November 15th. How hyped are you?
I'm so excited. I was almost expecting another delay because they've waited this long. We've known that it's going to be the end of the year for quite some time, but after multiple delays beforehand and hearing about those massive changes to the default attack and being able to support it in the Ziggy D interview, and the fact that they had to rebalance every single encounter in the game a few weeks back, I thought another delay was incoming, like WASD in that implementation. But
I thought so as well, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not happening. They're ready. And they are also saying, like, early access is not going to be the final balance of the game. There's going to be drastic shifts like we're seeing in the development right now during early access. And we just got to be along for the ride. So
I guess the idea is you have to start off a little bit too hard, because if it's too easy, you can't really calibrate. You don't really know whether somebody has it too easy, but you definitely notice when it's too hard, right? So they're probably going to dial it down. And I'm assuming they already dialed it down. And I guess to question you right now, you were on the first event, the first PoE2 event in LA, the second one as well, which I wanted to attend, but unfortunately I couldn't. But have you seen kind of like a shift in terms of mentality? Like, just tell us about it.
Massive shift. Event 1, I was pretty transparent the fact that I had a terrible time playing the game. The event itself was phenomenal. Meeting Jonathan and Octavian and all the other creators, great. But I chose the Warrior because I really wanted to play Melee and see how it felt in PoE 2. The experience was rough. I was just getting mobbed by packs. I couldn't get past, midway through an area without TPing back to a town multiple times over. Bosses were just dominating me. And I know other people who were more skillful there got pretty far on the Warrior, for example. But for someone like me who's not as skillful and wasn't getting any good drops at all, it was way too difficult, in my opinion. I think the balance and the tuning was way off, and Melee still felt clunky. And when PoE 2 was almost entirely built to fix Melee, I think that that's bad. And they realized that, and we can talk about it in a second, because they drastically swapped up a ton of stuff going into that second event.
Interesting enough, because you're talking about Melee right now. So first up, I also heard the same sentiment. After the first event, obviously nobody revealed anything too crazy to me, but just in terms of how much fun they had at the event, from the first to the second event, it was a huge shift, and it had also, like you said, exactly to do with Melee. And I guess to kind of bring this to PoE 1, in PoE 1 we just had a Melee rework, and what they basically did is slap a bunch of damage on Melee skills. It was nothing like crazy, it was literally just change the numbers. Do you think PoE 2 is actually necessary to bring Melee to the next level, or do you think that it's actually a lot easier?
Yeah, I think that it's necessary to bring it to the next level, because they actually addressed this in the Ziggy D interview, and I totally agree with it. We've constructed all of our builds in PoE 1 to negate combat. We want to fight as little as possible, and we want to zoom as quick as possible. In PoE 2, they're really trying to bring combat and actually experiencing the encounters to the forefront, which in my opinion, That's the kind of game I really enjoy. Being able to play around the monster's abilities, my own abilities, not just trying to minimize every single thing that I'm doing in the game. In Pee-wee 1, that's what melee is, right? I played a melee build this particular league, and all I'm trying to do is blast everything on the screen as soon as possible. I'm playing Lacerate
That's just a
Glad.
Pee-wee 1 thing, to be fair. That's just Pee-wee 1, right?
That's
not
right.
just melee.
Like every single build, like melee especially, because if you're not killing stuff before it comes to you, even on melee, like you have a pretty good chance of dying, right? And in Pee-wee 2, you need to be a lot more tactical. The melee skills feel a lot better, at least in the playtest too. And in all the latest gameplay footage, they just feel weightier. I think at this point in Pee-wee 1 with the balance and everything just feels floaty. It's kind of like Last Epoch. When you get to that point, nothing feels truly meaty with melee anymore. And I really like the direction they're going with Pee-wee 2 and all that.
I like that as well. I guess the one concern would be that you kind of have to balance that off with having just HP sponges, right? Where it's just you're going through the same motion. I've especially seen this in Pee-wee 2 early on in the boss fights. I've seen that it's basically just the same rotation of skills. You kind of know what he's going to do. And it's not like Dark Souls where things are unpredictable. The bosses are a lot more predictable. So at some point, you're just kind of going through the motion. So I guess they just kind of have to balance that, right? Find the right middle ground.
Or they have to go absolutely insane with all the different boss abilities. I don't know if the further you go in the game, they're going to vary that more. But one example that's actually at the end of the video that you have on screen right now, the Colossus fight. If you watch that battle, there are just so many different abilities that he throws out at you between, 100 to 75, 75 to 50, 50 to 25. All these new things start spawning and you can see the arena starts to fall apart. So you have less and less space. If they do cool stuff like that in boss fights, I don't think that's a problem, but you are right. Especially in the early boss fights, it is very, okay, I know what it's going to do. I know this guy's going to charge me and I'm going to walk to the side. Right. Yeah. It's very rhythmic. Like, what's going to happen. So if they want to vary it up, this is the way to do it, a fight like this.
100%, yeah. So I guess you already talked about them wanting to approach the game completely different. Do you think it's actually going to work for new players? So the one problem I always have is since they said they want this to be easier for new players or like easier to get into the game for new players, where do you see the challenges in that? Because the main issue I have right now is that the game becomes more and more complex over time. So we started in Pee-wee 1 as well with a very easy game, easy to understand. Like when I started playing, it was way easier to learn the game than if you want to jump in right now. Kind of like WoW 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? How do you think they will achieve that with this bloat that they probably will put out as well over time?
It's an idealistic notion right here, but it looks like for the launch of Pee-wee 2, they're going to have a variety of systems in place to immediately help out new players and people trying to learn the game inside the game and not rely on content creators like us watching YouTube videos, going onto wikis and all the like, by having this stuff in game. So for example, just a few. The passive skill tree. Right now you can hover and hold control and you can see exactly how the new passive that you're trying to take changes all your current skills, right? That's awesome. In addition, when you're cutting a new gem, it automatically defaults to not just some random weapon or skill type. It defaults to the weapon you're currently wielding, all the gems for that specific weapon, showcasing, okay, new player, don't go and look at all this stuff right now. Don't overcomplicate this. Look at this set of skill gems. This is what you can use for axes, for example.
So you're basically saying if the systems are ironclad, then the bloat over time will not make any problems.
If they're ironclad and they have the explanations in the game, they don't just drop something in and it's like, oh, well, you got to completely figure it out. If there's a little bit of guidance there, showcasing exactly what the new system does, I think that that's going to help with the game long term and help people learn the game while in the game. That's one of my biggest things. I don't use POB really outside of League launch, and it's only because I'm sharing my builds with people, my terrible builds. I never use it otherwise. I hope Path of Exile 2 is in the place where I don't have to go to an external source and make my build there. I can just do it in the game. I really hope they continue to push the game in that direction. And stuff like the currency exchange, which is already confirmed to be in Pee-wee 2, it was taken from Pee-wee 2 to Pee-wee 1. That's also going to help new players understand the economy and what items are valuable because it's going to be there from the outset. So as long as they add new systems, but also include easy methods of introduction to those systems, I think they'll be fine. Now, that is very difficult. I imagine putting some sort of mini tutorial in the game for like cluster jewels and using those effectively. if those eventually make it into PoE2, that's really difficult.
Well,
So,
the best tutorials are the ones where you don't have to read, right? Like the game kind of teaches you. And
Right.
so that is dearly missing in PoE1 right now. It's like you get into some kind of into an act, and all of a sudden Nico is there, and it's like, oh, click on these things and then go somewhere where exactly we don't know. What do I do there? We don't know. And then throw in 20 of those mechanics, and
Right.
nobody's going to know what the hell is going on.
and they are embracing showcasing stuff in game immediately when you see them. For example, the skill gems. When you hover over a skill gem, it'll show the rundown of the gem and a video of the gem in action. Stuff like that, having it in game, and it's not closing you out to a browser or anything like the current MTX system in PoE1. All of that's in
Sure.
the game. It's showcasing it in game. There's narration from a Grinding Your Games developer over the gem and what it does and how you can use it. If they do that for League mechanics like Delve or anything else they might introduce, man, that
problem
would be wonderful.
Is that scalable on
Right.
like a long term? Because for release it makes sense, but once you put these systems in, you can't just like explain half of the gems and then cut the rest.
Right. It has to be scalable. You're totally right, Palsteron, because they can't do it for the first 200 gems and then the next 200. Oh,
Yep.
well, you're just going to have to figure that out. They're setting a very firm foundation here. They have to continue to build on it. They can't just be like, okay, well, we have the 3-month, 4-month timeline to hit. We're going to have to just miss out on this. They have to be consistent with the quality.
I'm really concerned about that. But what I'm not concerned about, what a lot of PoE1 players are concerned about right now, is the complexity in the game. And what I always say is, I think the game could not be for you, but knowing GGG for this long, the fact that you think those nerds are not going to make a complex game, I don't even think they have that in them, right? So that's like the one thing where I'm more concerned that over time it will deviate into the same thing as PoE1, and it will be less and less approachable for new players. So what do you think about that in general?
Yeah, there's no way they're not making a complex game. I mean, in my opinion, a lot of people are saying, oh, the build diversity is not going to be there because all of these skill gems are being grouped by weapon, and you're not going to be able to just free-form use everything with I think that's crap. I think they're adding complexity to the game. You can only use one of each support gem across your build. You have weapon swapping and 2 separate skill trees for your separate weapon. They're adding all these skill gem classifications that we've never seen in PoE1 into the base game itself. I think there's going to be more complexity, especially if you're there out and searching for it. What I hope doesn't happen, and I share your fear, is that it's not all thrust at a new player, and I think they're doing a good job slowly introducing them to that. I think this is a hot take here. I think PoE is a great game for casuals. It's not a great game for people who don't want to invest time or like energy or effort into it. I play PoE as a casual. I have 2 kids now, and I have been learning every single league, every single play session for the past 5 years, and I love that for a game. Many other games out there, I'll sit down, I'll play it 3 times, like Helldivers 2. I'll play that 3 times. I know basically everything to do it, like in the game. I understand it. I'm not going to be learning anything else. I'm turning my brain off entirely. I'm shooting bugs. In Path of Exile, you're always going to be learning. And, I'm a big fan of that. I hope they continue with adding complexity if you're searching out for it, but also make sure that they focus on depth of systems and not adding tediousness and all the like.
I think the important thing is that they give casual players a pocket to live in, sort of, and not engage with all this like market. And that's kind of what they did ever since they started SSF, right? That is definitely a step in the right direction. I think the people that PoE is not for are, like you said, people who don't like to explore. It's going to be pretty rough for PoE players at the start. But back in the day, like tutorials were almost non-existent. There were a slew of old RPGs. I just think about Gothic, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever played that game, but when I first got into that game, you get thrust into like a prisoner colony. Everybody spits on you. Everybody punches you. You die all the time. And it's like, well, I mean, Dark Souls, right? I think that these kind of games are still fine for casuals. I think the people that do not like PoE are FOMO gamers. It's like, other people have Mage Blood. I cannot get a Mage Blood because I have a job. Game bad.
That's where I see the most complaints. Yes.
Yeah, that is the main thing. But in general, like, if we take a step back, since we're already at PoE1 right now, what's your relationship to PoE1 in general?
Yeah, so PoE1, I absolutely love the game. I started playing it back in 2019, the day before ExileCon, actually. I was playing D3, didn't really like Diablo 3, was kind of pissed off at Asmodan and him being kind of silly with him narrating the third act of the game and telling me all of his plans. And I thought, well, this is kind of silly. This isn't like Diablo 2. So I bounced from it, searched games like Diablo, hopped into PoE, instantly fell in love, and had been playing ever since. I played every single league since Blight, and I go for the challenges. That's what I really like. I go for the challenges and the exclusive cosmetic rewards. I usually do one build a league, trying to do as many challenges as possible in the game. And that really keeps me hooked with the game. And it gives me a lot of experience with all the different games systems and just exploring it with a single new build every single season. I've never done a repeat skill. I try to do a new skill every league, and it's been a blast. I've never really burnt out on the game, but again, I don't play, 5 characters to 100 every league. I don't get a mage blood every league. Heck, I don't think I've ever got a mage blood in league. I think I have one in standard because I gambled some apothecary cards and randomly came out with one. But I really enjoy that playstyle, and it's worked for me. I just got 38 challenges in this league in, 3 weeks in, right before my daughter was born, because I really wanted that portal.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. That's more than enough. The reason I ask is because you did some PoE 1 content right at the start, right?
Yeah.
You kind of started out with lore videos.
Yes, I love the Path of Exile lore. And there's a small but vibrant community. There are dozens of us who also like the lore itself. In PoE 1, you really have to go and search it out there or sit there and listen, right? Because of how the dialogue works, and it's slow and dragging on.
You have to seek it out.
Yes, you do. And it's great if you want to go seek it out. But a lot of people, they like to go fast, or, they don't understand that it's actually good. And you have to go through those different dialogue trees. It's great. But I loved it, wanted to share it with more people. I know Kitten Cat Noodle is the resident lore master here in the community. Thought I could make a few videos to try to emulate that. They worked out really well. But then I made a PoE 2 video and everything changed. So
I guess one thing that I don't like about the PoE 1 story is I actually remember a time where I tried to get into it a little bit. I don't remember much, but I remember I have a lot of film snob friends, and I kind of talked with them about it. They also tried to get into it. And what we kind of came out with is these kind of stories where you start somewhere and then you just keep adding, especially sporadically, like in the game. The problem very often is that the story is not really anything all that special because you have all these holes and whatnot. It's not planned out from the get-go, right? They're just kind of like throwing stuff in as they go.
So there's 2 ways to look at that. You can look at it has a bunch of holes in it. I see it as them planting future seeds and to fill in, like during a Trial of the Ancestors. That was a league where a whole bunch of holes were filled, and that was awesome. But I can totally see that because in leagues like Scourge with Last to Die, what the heck was that we were introduced that there's many different Ray class and different timelines.
Harbingers, I'm still waiting.
Right, Harbingers. So I can see both sides of the argument there, definitely.
Yeah, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for what that means. Like what all these cryptic things, I don't know, the speech means and whatnot. Yeah, somebody needs to solve it. But I do remember here, right? Somewhere here was the video you're talking about. And I guess we can kind of take this as a leap into content creation in general.
Yeah.
When you make all of these videos, and they do, I mean, this is like 4K for your first video, 2K, and so on, right? You're kind of getting into your groove, and then all of a sudden you make a video with 111K views. What changes in your perspective at that point? Can you kind of get us through that to that?
Yeah, absolutely everything. So
yeah.
The story here is I realized, wow, that PoE 2 is probably coming out pretty soon because Exile Con's in July. There's no way they're going to delay anything. So no one's talking about it, but people were so excited about it. I'm excited about it. It looks so good. I'm just going to make a video kind of talking about what happened with Path of Exile 2. And my goodness, did people love it. So there's a really funny story that went on around this one, Palsteron. So I made the video. First take was horrible. I hated it. I deleted it. And a few days later, I said, okay, I'll give it another go. So I just re-recorded it, basically the same script. And I posted it. And I posted it to Reddit because that's where I shared my lore stuff and people really enjoyed it. So I thought, okay, maybe Reddit will give me a nice little boost because my channel had like 300 subscribers at that point. So I posted it on Reddit and I went to bed. I woke up the next morning. And the first thing I do, I'm like, I'm going to check the Reddit thread, see if it has some upvote, see if people really liked it. was at like -20 upvotes. People were like, this is the worst video ever. I was like, oh no, this is terrible. And then I checked my YouTube studio and it was at 13,000 views overnight. And like you said before, my other video, I know it has 4K now. I think my highest video before then was like 1,500 views. So I was floored. I was like, what the heck happened? The algorithm that just picked it up. And so the rest of that day, it just kept climbing and climbing. And then I got a message at like 7 o'clock at night saying, dude, you're on Asmongold's stream right now. I think your voice is on there, from one of my coworkers. So I put
the Kingmaker.
Yeah. So I put the stream on. He listened to it. He really liked it. He shared it. His video has a few million views or something of my video, but it really helped me out. And I was like, okay, Natalie, which is my wife, I said, okay, I'm not going to let this go to waste. I'm not going to just ride the wave. I'm just going to continue the momentum and try to build it up as much as I can. So I started making like 2 videos a week. One was on PoE 2. The other was kind of a Path of Exile 1 related video. It was a series that I had been wanting to make for a while. And I started it back then. I'm looking to pick it up now. It's the flashback series. It's going through every single Path of Exile 1 expansion that's ever been released, starting from the inception of PoE to the alphas, to the closed betas, to Torment and 2.0 and all that. And people really like that stuff.
Hard to find footage from back then.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Yep.
That's the problem. So it's very hard to find good footage from back then. Luckily, like Force Gaming had some great footage of the betas and the like, but finding actual good footage, that's kind of what the stopper was. And they stopped performing well, unfortunately. And then when ExileCon came around, I tried a little bit of the flavor of the month stuff where I was like, okay, I'm going to cover the news live about Path of Exile. That kind of worked out. And then Trial of the Ancestors came out and I said, all right, I think I can try out this content creation game and see if I can put a different spin on the typical like league starter format and how I cover my builds, because I'm not a build maker. I make builds, but I don't go into POB. I'm like, okay, I want to play this
interject
skill.
There maybe. Sorry? Just for a second, like there's not that many people who actually do news. There's people who sometimes do news and flavor of the month stuff, but there's no like channel dedicated to it. So I think that's definitely a good niche to fill in PoE 1 as well. Like there's nobody who, I mean, there's Sogog, I guess would be like the closest one who covers absolutely everything, I would say, and very thorough. But for PoE 2, yeah, there's going to be space that opens up. I guess the one thing you talked about that I'm a little bit suspicious of was I think it's really good to kind of like feel the groove and kind of see what people want. And having that one video to kind of tell you, okay, this is the direction I should go, right? Kind of listening to it. But then there's also the other perspective where sometimes your videos that perform the least are still really important, either for you creatively or also for the community. So for example, I'll give you one example here, and I don't want to belittle you with this example, but some of my videos that are kind of about, for example, Path of Building, a 1-hour guide, right? Nobody cared, like literally nobody cared. But the funny part is, same with Loot Filter, right? But the funny part is I get the most positive comments on my stream about those videos. Those videos, even though they only helped out so many people, it's like, so I guess that's kind of like the hard thing about being a content creator, is like not just chasing the views, obviously that's important, but also like knowing when to do something good for your long-term stats, right?
I'm so glad that you say that. Like I did one of those, I think 2 weeks ago. It was why Path of Exile is a great game for dads or something like that. I can't remember the exact title. Performed so terribly, but I was like, I want to do this. I want to talk about, like, I brought up a whole bunch of just experiences that I've had, like with my daughter while playing, and like how I can just hop up, and this game is so droppable compared to, I used to play Dota 2. So that was my game. Never again. I can't do that. Last game I played, I was like, I had to go help her and I got reported by everybody. We lost the game. I got low price. It was just, it's like, no, can't anymore. So I totally agree with you. And that's why I want to get back to like the flashback style videos. And the other thing with the news is I'm decent at improvising, not when I have dad brain and I'm working on like 1 hour of sleep right now. So sorry if I stumble over my words, but I can write down a pretty succinct script, some notes, and I can go off on those because all the stuff is fresh in my head. I'm experiencing it. Whereas something like, okay, how exactly did the Awakening patch 2.0 play out, and what were all the players and factors? Man, I had to research that stuff for 20, 25 hours and then do all the editing. It's a lot. And as a dad with a full-time job and everything, I don't have that darn time, but I can do these videos pretty easily, like the news style and stuff, because I can improvise and think on my feet.
Yeah, it's kind of like comfort food. Sometimes you just have these videos coming, but then there's also these times where you don't really know what to post. I guess back to how I feel about it is at some point I just stop posting if I don't have anything to.
Yeah.
If I don't have anything to say, I just stop posting, and I felt like I always wanted to chase algo or whatever. It didn't really matter at the end of the day. Like your content quality just kind of goes down if you chase those numbers. And I remember having a talk with a buddy of mine, also content creator. I'm not going to name him here, but he talked about like when he released at this time, his video did better, and when he did this, it did better. And I'm like, do you really think that you can actually trick the algorithm, right? Like you have this concoction of like trillion of data points, and you think that because in Brazil, people watch more on Tuesday at this time, you're going to get better views and better long-term growth. It's like, it's crazy to do. So I think I made the best decision for myself, which is just I post whatever I want to at whatever time I want to. And ever since I kind of released this like weird bug in my brain that I have to like min-max stuff, it gets so much better.
I got to try that, man, because it's funny that you say that. Like when the big PoE2 news came out, a few days ago, now 3 days or something. It was literally when my daughter was being born, and I didn't care about it at all then. But when I sat down today to make the video, I was like, it's probably, you got to be first with this sort of stuff. It's a news video. There were already a bunch of them already out there. I'm subscribed to every PoE content creator. I saw all the videos and everything. I was like, but I'm going to do it because I want to do it, because I have covered everything Path of Exile 2 related. So I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do it.
They're waiting.
It's going to do terrible. It's going to do terrible. It's at like 42,000 views right now. It's been out for like
nobody
7
cares.
hours.
Like the game is not about to be out.
Yeah.
This is not like a thing that happens tomorrow or anything like that. It's like there's time. I'm going to watch your video tomorrow on stream, right? Like stuff like that. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I was just shocked with the performance. It's 1 to 10. It doesn't matter. I don't have to be first, I can just chill. I can do it at my own pace. It's not a big deal. If people want to watch it, they'll watch it. So I do have to get that mindset through my head. It will help.
And also, if you have like a bad day or you have like stuff to do, other stuff on your mind and you can't concentrate, you're also going to make a bad video, and you can only make that video once.
Yep.
Right. So you could also see it from that perspective, I guess.
Right. Hey, back when I made that first video, I knew it was a crap video. I just deleted it. I got to have that mindset. I've deleted a lot of videos, actually. Do you delete videos? Yeah? Like not delete, but like you record it. You almost edit it all, and you're like, I'm not happy with it. All the time. You do?
All the time. Okay. Yeah.
Not just
I don't really delete it once it's up, because I feel like that's unfair, kind of like towards. But in post, a lot of things get scrapped.
Right.
I guess in general, do you fear that once PoE2 comes out, your niche will get smaller? Do you have any ideas what to do once the pre-game launch news are over? Are you going to do something similar to, for example, Sir GOG, where you're going to cover the news? Because the problem is, once the game comes out, now you have to engage with the game a lot, not just on the surface level, but in order to give good news. Like, for example, Sir GOG is an absolute beast when it comes to game mechanics and whatnot. What approach to content creation will you have once PoE2 actually releases?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm guessing I'm going to go with more and more of my newer style videos. I don't know if you've watched the ones that I've done about like Path of Exile 1 and the state of the meta. It's like I'm kind of doing like a news broadcast where I put on like a fancy shirt and I sit there and I have like the screenshots scrolling on the side of me and I'm talking about everything that's going on. I pull some community testimonials and the like.
Okay, people have really just 1 second. Those. I gotta see the shirt.
That's
I gotta see the shirt.
Yeah,
what
let's
was
see. It's like the ridiculous state of PoE 3.25. There you go. Yeah, it's like at 70,000 views.
Oh,
got the shirt.
Okay.
Go through.
I see.
I might do those.
You're trying to show off. Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, totally. That's what it is. No, I thought it would be a funny idea. And people loved it when I did it on like day 3 of the league. I was like, I love Sir GOG's videos where he does like the 10-day meta report. And I thought, why didn't I pull together some of the early meta knowledge, people's reactions, and kind of just go through them? It was really fun. People really enjoyed it too. The comments were really positive. People were sharing it. I, was very self-aware of my positivity and my yappy nature. So I think I might do a lot of those, because you're right. I'm not suddenly going to get a lot more time unless I were to transition doing this full time. I have a full-time job. I have a family and everything. So these style of videos, I think, are what I'm going to do. I could never fill that niche of like Sir GOG and his expert.
You would basically have to make your stream into your content, kind of.
Right, and
that's
I can't
like the only way to stay on top.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's probably what I'm going to do. I mean, I'll do like the odd, like, oh, here's what I'm playing, and here's the latest news about PoE2. This is the next update. I'll do that sort of stuff because I feel like one other niche that I was trying to fill when I started my channel that I didn't go into earlier, it was during Lake of Calandra. And rightly so for the most part, every content creator I watched was very negative about the game and very upset about the state of it. And, you know, I didn't necessarily like Calandra either. I think that was my least favorite league of all time. But I usually watch content creators to get excited, to chill. I complain about like my job and stuff. I don't want to watch stuff about my favorite game and hear people complaining, even when it's warranted. Like I totally get the warranted fact of it. But on my channel, I mostly keep it positive. I think the most negative I've been is when I first played Path of Exile 2, which is just massively ironic. But I also try to fill that niche too. I'm an excitable person. I talk very loud, and a lot of people are a lot more relaxed usually in our community. So I think that's just another like personality that I try to exhibit when I'm making videos too.
Interesting that you say that about like the negativity. Lake of Calandra was the first time where, honestly, I even enjoyed 3.15 Expedition. Lake of Calandra was the first time where I actually did not enjoy a league. That was the first time in 10 years of playing at that time, I think. Didn't enjoy it. So for me, it was like a new experience. I didn't really know how to cope with it. And what happened to me is I also got really bitchy. Like I was super negative and bitchy, and I still streamed. And like you said, I don't want to listen to somebody complain. I don't care about how bad the game is. Play, right? Just play the fucking game. Like if you don't like the game, don't play the game. That was the first point where I realized that I'm being bitchy. And then Necropolis was kind of the breaking point because that was the second league I did not like. And at that point, it came to a halt where I was like, I'm being a little bitch, right? I'm just being negative all the time, and it has no place. It has a place for like one video with constructive criticism or whatever. Right. And sure, like the clips are funny, right? Sometimes, haha, I don't enjoy the league or whatever. But I saw Captain Lance grinding the league, playing 100 hours in a week on his SSF character in Necropolis in like month 3. And I was like, dude, my perspective is completely screwed up. I don't know what the hell is happening. But if I want to do this long term, I have to change my perspective because I'm talking myself into actively not enjoying the game.
Right.
So I feel very called out by that, but you're 100% right.
I'm sorry.
You're 100% right.
I'm sorry. I had to do it. And I get the people being upset. It's a system shock. Yeah. Like you said, I don't know how long you've been playing, but if you've been playing a game for like a decade and you've liked every single league, and then the one comes in where it's just so bad and you don't like it, you're going to be pretty upset about it, and you're going to be publicly upset. So
with that said, though, PoE2 is right around the corner. We just want to make this clear at the end that it is not 100% confirmed yet, as of this recording, that everybody will be able to join. We simply do not know. We suspect, because otherwise they would have probably said something, and they would have probably given us some way to sign up, but it is not 100% yet, right?
Yeah, that's confirmed. I think it's going to be full and open, like Path of Exile 1. They're just going to get as many people in, as much publicity, do big supporter packs, but not have key access. That's what I think is going to happen. There's a lot that has changed in the past year. I think they're finally just going to release it to as many people as possible.
Yeah, I think so as well. Are you going to stream? Are you going to go live?
I'm going to stream. I'm going to go hard. So I don't know if we're going to do a big 24-hour stream, but I might do a really long, like, 12, 16-hour stream. I've already booked PTO for Friday, Monday, Tuesday. I know it was a terrible idea. The servers could go down on Friday, and I could have wasted a day. But I'll just sit in the queues and, complain with all of you. So
Perfect. All right, man. Then I'm going to definitely rewatch some of your videos before the new stuff comes out. I have watched a lot of your videos as well. I think you make great content. I'm really happy that somebody fills the void of kind of like this news cycle before PoE2 comes out. And just thank you for being here, man.
Thanks so much, Palsteron. It was great talking to you tonight.
All right. See ya.
See ya.